Asteroids, meteors, and comets. Asteroids. Asteroids are small bodies that are believed to be left over from the beginning of the solar system 4.6 billion years ago. They are rocky objects with round or irregular shapes up to several hundred kilometers across, but most are much smaller. More than 1 lakh asteroids lie in a belt between Mars and Jupiter. These asteroids lie in a location in the solar system where there seems to be a jump in the spacing between the planets. Scientists think that this debris may be the remains of an early planet, which broke up early in the solar system. Several thousand of the largest asteroids in this belt have been given names. The chances of an asteroid colliding with Earth are very small, but some do come close to Earth, like Hermes. Meteors. Meteors are streaks of light, usually lasting just a few seconds, which people occasionally see in the night sky. They are sometimes called shooting stars or falling stars, though they are not stars at all. Meteors are caused by the entry of small pieces of rock, dust, or metal from space into the atmosphere at extremely high speeds. These particles, called meteoroids, when they are floating around in space, are traveling at incredible speeds of tens of kilometers per second when they streak into the atmosphere. The incredible pressure meteoroids experience when they collide with Earth's atmosphere shatters them, transferring energy to atoms and molecules in the atmosphere, which then release the energy by glowing. This glow produces the bright trails of light in the sky we see as meteors. Most meteoroid particles are quite small, ranging in size from a grain of sand to a pea-sized pebble. Almost all of them disintegrate in the atmosphere long before reaching the ground. Very rarely, a larger meteoroid actually survives to strike the ground, creating a meteor crater in a huge explosion. This explosion often vaporizes whatever solid material is left on the meteoroid after its fiery flight through the atmosphere. Sometimes, however, pieces of the meteoroid survive and are found in the crater or nearby. These chunks of rock or metal are called meteorites. Meteors are not the same thing as comets. Meteors appear briefly as they streak through the sky. Comets are much larger objects that are actually still out in space. Several times each year, Earth passes across the orbit of a comet where dust and small bits of rock from the comet have been left behind. When this happens, we can see many meteors in a single night, sometimes as many as 100 or more per hour. These events are called meteor showers. Comets. Not long ago, many people thought that comets were a sign that something bad was about to happen to them. People didn't understand how objects in the sky moved, so the sight of a comet must have been very disturbing. There are many historical records and works of art which record the appearance of comets and link them with terrible events such as wars or plagues. Now, we know that comets are lumps of ice and dust that periodically come into the center of the solar system from somewhere in its outer reaches, and that some comets make repeated trips. When comets get close enough to the sun, heat makes them start to evaporate. Jets of gas and dust form long tails that we can see from Earth. These tails can sometimes be millions of miles long. In 1985-86, a spacecraft called Giotto visited the most famous comet Halley on Halley's most recent visit to the inner solar system. In 1994, comet Shoemaker-Levy became trapped by the gravity of Jupiter and plunged into Jupiter's atmosphere. In 1996 and 97, we saw comet Hyakutake and comet Hale-Bopp. Hale-Bopp was one of the brightest comets ever seen from Earth. Comet Linear was discovered in 1999 and made its closest approach of the Sun in July 2000. The Stardust spacecraft flew by Comet Wild 2 in January 2004, collecting samples of the comet to return to Earth. Constellations. For the ancients, the importance of observation of the heavens cannot be underestimated. It was the means by which the cycles of the year and longer-term phases in time could be measured, calculated, and foretold. Astronomers in all early civilizations saw patterns in the stars by which time and place could be fixed. Inevitably, perhaps, the eternal and apparently unchanging nature of the skies meant that they became closely associated with, or indeed identified as, these civilizations' gods. The stars and star patterns were incorporated into mythologies concerning the exploits of deities and their interactions with humanity, so that many of the constellations we can view today are named after beings and objects in those ancient tales. Eris the ram. Eris is the first of the 12 signs of the Zodiac, because in ancient times it was where the sun's pith crossed the celestial equator. Since then, this point has passed into Pisces due to the Earth's wobble. Eris has been associated with the ram for at least 2000 years. Taurus, the bull. Taurus is the second of the 12 constellations or signs of the Zodiac. The most distinctive feature of Taurus is the V shape formed by the Hades star duster at the base of the constellation's horns. Taurus is a very ancient constellation, possibly deriving from bull worship in early Mediterranean civilizations. Gemini, the twins. Gemini is the third of the 12 signs of the Zodiac. The twins are the two brightest stars in the lower right of the constellation, with Pollux above and to the right of Castor. Cancer, the crab. Cancer is the fourth of the 12 signs of the Zodiac. It is a relatively inconspicuous constellation. In Greek mythology, Cancer was associated with Hercules. Leo, the lion. Leo is the fifth of the 12 signs of the Zodiac. The stars of Leo form two groups, a triangle forming the lion's haunches and tail, whilst a sickle shape forms its head and mane. Leo's brightest star, Regulus, is at the base of the sickle and seems to be more important in mythology than the lion itself. Virgo, the Virgin. Virgin is the sixth of the 12 signs of the Zodiac. The Virgin is an old and astrologically important constellation associated with a mother goddess. She was Kanya, mother of Krishna in India, Ishtar in Babylonia, Isis in Egypt. In Greece and Rome, she was Astrea, daughter of Zeus and Themis. Libra, the scales of balance. Libra is a relatively inconspicuous constellation in the southern hemisphere. Libra was known as the balance beam in India and Middle Eastern cultures before Roman times. Scorpius, the scorpion. Scorpius lies between Sagittarius and Libra. It is an important summer constellation for northern hemisphere observers, containing many bright stars and the star clouds, nebulae, and dust lanes of the Milky Way. Sagittarius, the archer. Sagittarius lies between Scorpius and Capricornus. It is a large southern constellation which contains the star clouds of the central Milky Way, lying in the direction of the center of our galaxy. Sagittarius is depicted as a centaur holding a bow and arrow, which is pointed at the star Antares, the heart of Scorpius. Capricornus, sea goat. Capricornus lies just south of the celestial equator, but is still visible to northern observers during early evenings in the autumn. It is one of the 12 zodiacal constellations lying between Aquarius and Sagittarius. Aquarius, the water bearer. Aquarius is the 11th of the 12 constellations of the Zodiac. It is an extensive southern hemisphere constellation. The whole area of the sky in which it lies was associated in ancient times with water. Pisces, the fish. Pisces, the 12th of the 12 constellations of the Zodiac, is a large but inconspicuous constellation. It appears as a fish or two fishes in several ancient cultures. Orion. The most prominent feature of the Orion constellation is Orion's belt, a row of three bright stars. From left to right, these are Alnitak, Alnilam, and Mintaka, Zeta, Epsilon, and Delta Orions respectively. At upper left is the red supergiant star Betelgeuse, Alpha Orions. The blue supergiant Regal, Beta Orionis, is at lower right. Directly below the belt, the Orion Nebula is seen as a pink smudge. Orion's belt straddles the celestial equator, so the constellation is seen equally well from both hemispheres. Dwarf planets. In 2006, the International Astronomical Union approved a new classification scheme for planets and smaller objects in our solar system. That scheme includes three classes of objects: smaller solar system bodies, the much larger planets, and the new category of in-between sized dwarf planets. There are currently 5 official dwarf planets. Pluto, formerly the smallest of the 9 traditional planets, was demoted to dwarf planet status. Ceres, the largest asteroid in the main asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, was also declared a dwarf planet. The 3 other dwarf planets are Eris, Makemake, and Haumea. Pluto, Makemake, and Haumea orbit the Sun on the frozen fringes of our solar system in the Kuiper belt. Eris, also a trans-Neptunian object, is even further from the Sun. Both planets and dwarf planets orbit the Sun, not other planets. Both must be large enough that their own gravity pulls them into the shapes of spheres. This rules out numerous smaller bodies like most asteroids, many of which have irregular shapes. Planets clear smaller objects out of their orbits by sucking the small bodies into themselves or flinging them out of orbit. Dwarf planets with their weaker gravities are unable to clear out their orbits. Though there are just 5 dwarf planets now, their number is expected to grow. Scientists estimate there may be 70 dwarf planets amongst outer solar system objects that have been discovered already. Astronomers speculate that there may be 200 or so dwarf planets out through the distance of the Kuiper belt, an icy band of frozen planetoids on the edge of our solar system. Ceres, asteroid and dwarf planet. Ceres is the largest asteroid in the main asteroid belt. It was classified as a dwarf planet in 2006, along with Pluto and Eris. Ceres was discovered on January 1, 1801 by the Italian astronomer and monk Giuseppe Piazzi. Ceres has a diameter of about 975 kilometers. It is by far the largest and most massive body in the main asteroid belt and contains about a third of the belt's total mass. Ceres orbits the Sun once every 4.6 years. Its orbit lies between the orbits of Mars and Jupiter. The asteroid turns on its axis once every 9 hours, so that's how long a day is on Ceres. Haumea. Haumea is a dwarf planet in our solar system. Haumea is officially the 5th dwarf planet. The 4 that came before it are Pluto, Eris, Ceres, and Makemake. Haumea was classified a dwarf planet in September 2008. Haumea is a large Kuiper belt object. It is an icy world that orbits far from the Sun on the frozen fringes of our solar system. Because it is so far away, Haumea takes 285 years to orbit the Sun once. Haumea is usually a bit further from the Sun than Pluto. Haumea is smaller than both Pluto and Eris. Haumea has an odd shape. It is not a sphere. It is spinning so quickly that it has been stretched into the space of an ellipsoid. Haumea is 1960 kilometers across at its longest. It is only about half that far across, 996 kilometers, along its shortest axis. The days are really short on Haumea. This weird object spins around in less than 4 hours. Haumea is fairly dense. That means it is probably made mostly of rock. Most other KBOs probably have more ice in them than Haumea. This dwarf planet has 2 known moons, both discovered in 2005. Their names are Hiaka and Namaka. Makemake, a dwarf planet. Makemake is a dwarf planet in our solar system. Makemake was discovered in March 2005 by a team of astronomers led by Mike Brown. Makemake is a large Kuiper belt object. It is an icy world that orbits far from the Sun on the frozen fringes of our solar system. Pluto and Eris are KBOs too. Because it is so far away, Makemake takes nearly 310 years to orbit the Sun once. Makemake is usually a bit further from the Sun than Pluto. Makemake is smaller than both Pluto and Eris. Its diameter is between 1300 and 1900 kilometers. That makes it about 3/4 the size of Pluto. Astronomers haven't found any moons circling Makemake yet. Makemake is very cold. The temperature there is about -240 degrees centigrade. It may be covered with ice. Makemake, along with Pluto and Eris, is also considered as a Plutoid. Plutoids are dwarf planets which, like Pluto, orbit the Sun out beyond the planet Neptune. Eris. Eris is a dwarf planet in our solar system. Eris was one of the first 3 objects classified as a dwarf planet, along with Pluto and Ceres. Eris was first spotted in January 2005. Eris is a large sphere of ice and rock similar to Pluto. It orbits the Sun on the edge of the solar system. The diameter of Eris is about 2,500 kilometers. Some astronomers called Eris our solar system's 10th planet when it was first discovered. Eris has a moon named Dysnomia. The orbit of Eris is odd. The orbit is not a circle, so Eris moves closer to and farther from the Sun as it goes around. It takes Eris 557 years to go around one time. The orbit of Eris is also tilted. It doesn't move in the same plane that the other planets orbit in. Earth. Earth, our home planet, is a beautiful blue and white ball when seen from space. The 3rd planet from the Sun, it is the largest of the inner planets. Earth is the only planet known to support life and to have liquid water at the surface. Earth as a system. Earth, the largest and densest rocky planet, was formed about 4.5 billion years ago. The first time people got a glimpse of the whole Earth was December 1968. Apollo 8 astronauts took pictures of the Earth as they traveled to and from the Moon. In their photographs, the Earth looks like a small blue and white marble in a sea of black space. Looking at the planet from that far away makes it easy to see that all its parts, the living things, the air, the water, the ice, and the rocks are connected. Everything on Earth is in the same boat floating through space, a system. Since the 1980s, NASA scientists have been studying the Earth as they study other planets, mainly from above with satellites. Based on this way of looking at Earth, they developed the idea of Earth system science. There are 5 parts of Earth system. Each part has its own collection of materials and processes. However, the parts of the Earth system do not operate on their own. They all interact with other parts in many ways. The atmosphere extends up from the Earth's surface for several hundred kilometers. The lowest part is home to clouds and weather. The biosphere is all living things from single-celled bacteria to plants and animals. The geosphere includes all minerals, rocks, molten rock, sediments and soils. The hydrosphere includes the ocean, rivers, lakes, streams, groundwater, water vapor, and even puddles. The cryosphere is the frozen part of the Earth system and includes snow, glaciers, and sea ice. The Sun has a large impact on the Earth, and so it is also considered a part of the Earth system. Almost all the energy on Earth comes from the Sun. The factors outside the planet, like the Sun and solar system, which have an impact on the Earth system, or sometimes called the exosphere. Atmosphere. The atmosphere is a mixture of nitrogen 78%, oxygen 21%, and other gases 1% that surrounds Earth. High above the planet, the atmosphere becomes thinner until it gradually reaches space. It is divided into 5 layers. Most of the weather and clouds are found in the first layer. The atmosphere is an important part of what makes Earth livable. It blocks some of the Sun's dangerous rays from reaching Earth. It traps heat, making Earth a comfortable temperature, and the oxygen within our atmosphere is essential for life. Over the past century, greenhouse gases and other air pollutants released into the atmosphere have been causing big changes like global warming, ozone holes, and acid rain. Water. About 70% of the Earth's surface is covered with water, and most of that is the ocean. Only a small portion of the Earth's water is fresh water, which is found in rivers, lakes, and groundwater. Fresh water is needed for drinking, farming, and washing. Without water, life as we know it would not exist. The cryosphere. Frozen water is found in many different places on Earth. Snow blankets the ground at mid and high latitudes during winter. Sea ice and icebergs float in the chilly waters of polar oceans. Ice shelves fringe lands in Earth's polar regions. Glaciers and large ice sheets move slowly over land in polar regions. Glaciers are also found on high mountain tops around the world. The soils of polar regions called permafrost are filled with frozen water. Together, these different types of frozen water are known as the Earth's cryosphere. Approximately 3/4 of the world's fresh water is frozen in the cryosphere. Earth's polar regions. Earth's polar regions are the North Polar region called the Arctic and the South Polar region called the Antarctic. The Earth's magnetic field. The Earth has a magnetic field with north and south poles. The Earth's magnetic field reaches 36,000 miles into space. The magnetic field of the Earth is surrounded in a region called the magnetosphere. The magnetosphere prevents most of the particles from the Sun carried in solar wind from hitting the Earth. Some particles from the solar wind can enter the magnetosphere. The particles that enter from the magnetotail travel toward the Earth and create the aurora oval light shows. The Sun and other planets have magnetospheres, but the Earth has the strongest one of all the rocky planets. The Earth's north and south magnetic poles reverse at irregular intervals of hundreds of thousands of years. The Earth's moon. The Earth's one natural satellite, The moon is more than 1/4 of the size of Earth itself, 3,474 kilometers in diameter. Because of its smaller size, the moon's gravity is 1/6 of the Earth's gravity, as we saw demonstrated by the giant wheels of the Apollo astronauts. While there are only two basic types of regions on the moon's surface, there are many interesting surface features such as craters, mountain ranges, rilles, and lava plains. The structure of the moon's interior is more difficult to study. The moon's top layer is a rocky solid, perhaps 800 kilometers thick. Beneath this layer is a partially molten zone. Although it is not known for certain, many lunar geologists believe the moon may have a small iron core, even though the moon has no magnetic field. The footprints left by Apollo astronauts will last for centuries because there is no wind on the moon. The moon does not possess any atmosphere, so there is no weather as we are used to on Earth. Because there is no atmosphere to trap heat, the atmospheres on the moon are extreme, ranging from 100 degrees centigrade at noon to minus 173 degrees centigrade at night. The moon doesn't produce its own light, but looks bright because it reflects light from the sun. Think of the sun as a light bulb and the moon as a mirror reflecting light from the light bulb. The lunar phase changes as the moon orbits the Earth and different portions of its surface are illuminated by the sun.